Recording in progress.
Yay. Happy post-Thanksgiving, but also hopefully, we were talking about this, plenty of gratitude and gratitude awareness still journeying with us. I'd like to start off on our back body, and we're going to do some kind of self-touch, so hand on belly, hand on chest, in order to just become that much more aware of the breath itself, but also these parts of our body. We often talk about, of course, our heart space, joy and gratitude and feeling emotionally open and connected to others. This gut, right, not only is it where we take in our kind of nourishment, but this is the area that often gets tight if we're feeling, in fact, I would say the opposite of grateful. We're feeling fearful, we're feeling stressed or anxious, fear of not enough, all of those things. So first, just coming into a few sighing breaths, waking up our breath mechanism. I feel like those exhales on the sides are such a lovely opportunity to release stagnation and to also notice the energy behind them. How much stress, how much hurry or worry have you been carrying? When those sighs feel complete, closing the mouth, turning the gaze up and in, third eye, lightly connecting the tip of the tongue at the roof of the mouth, adding your soft Ujjayi throat breath. And I'd like you to notice where fabric is moving against your skin. I'm hoping you can feel movement of the front body, the back body, all around. It's not the music I intended. Here we go. Thank you for getting to the mat with me this morning. This is your practice. You've done the important part of getting here, and now there's nothing required. Just this moment, this body, and this breath. As you're continuing to tune into your breath and body, I'm going to ask you to just very sort of consciously scan and inquire within. It's almost like you're an interviewer asking you, hey, how's it going? How's it feeling in these parts of the body, the gut, the heart? What was the holiday like for you? We were just talking about now entering the month of December, and I find once we've finished with Thanksgiving, a lot of times people's attention then turn to the next series of holidays. And I'm going to ask you to ask yourself, how am I feeling about that? Maybe you're like, hey, that's not even on my radar. That is weeks away. Cool. Maybe you feel a mixture of feelings, and I find that is often the hardest to figure out. It's almost easier when it's just one simple thing. I'm stressed or I'm excited. And I already invited you in those basic points of introversion, the inward gaze, third eye, and the Ujjayi. I'm not sure I remembered to mention the tongue positioning. So adding that now, the tip of the tongue behind the front teeth, roof of the mouth, the rest of the tongue and the jaw soft, almost as if you're about to go to sleep. I'm hoping that some of you already have had that kind of what we call a sighing experience. It's different than the sighs that you intentionally did. It's a sigh that happens when the vagus nerve moves into a happy, healthy place. And it's that kind of, you sort of, animals do it, babies do it, and hopefully we get to do it. If that hasn't already happened, no worries. I'm going to ask you to now open your eyes looking at the ceiling. And when you're ready, you're going to, keeping your eyes open. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. I have to have you move your hand position. I was so excited. I got ahead of myself. Taking your hands and intertwining the fingers and then placing them behind your head so that the palms, if you will, are against the base of the skull and your knuckles are between the skull and the floor. Now we're ready. Go ahead and open the eyes and then turn them, rotate them to the right. And we're going to be there for about 30 seconds or until we experience a swallow, a sigh, or a yawn. And when the 30 seconds is up, if you haven't had those experiences, you're welcome to just hold a little longer. And if you would like, you could release back to center, and now taking the eyes, rotating to the left. Again, the eyes stay open. Again, don't feel that you need to force those reactions that I was mentioning, the yawn, the swallow, or the sigh. Just being present in your body. And again, if you would like to now release back to center, you might find it satisfying to just close the eyes a moment. And I want to remind you that at the base of the skull where your hands just were, and you're welcome to release them anytime, we actually have a variety of optical nerves and really important connections back there. And that when our eyes are open and taking in the world and so on, it's causing interactions with our nervous system. And so if you're kind of wondering, I don't understand what we just did, that's my very short layperson explanation. And this is why, by the way, it is so valuable, even if you don't take naps per se, you don't go to sleep, that you either once a day at a minimum, lay down and close your eyes, let your spine decompress, let the brain get quiet in a way that it cannot do when the eyes are open. Or also the difference between seated meditation and say walking through the woods, which is wonderful, but it isn't the same as when you have the eyes closed. So just reminding you that to refresh and nourish your system as we move into the coming weeks, it's really valuable to make that a part of your commitment to health. Feel free to retain eyes closed throughout our practice at any point, or if you want to start challenging your focus, your ability for attention, go ahead and open your eyes. And of course, they are open to the ceiling in this position. And I'm going to ask you, with the eyes open, to return to seeing the breath the way you did at the beginning of practice. Noticing fabric moving against the skin. Asking of the inhale, is there more? With each exhale, inviting a deeper sinking into gravity. I'm sure I'm not alone when I find that that's hard. When I find some part of me is like anticipating the next thing. So again, just scan your body and notice. We're going to come into one of my favorite practices for kind of getting the muscles out of doer mode. And that is to actually contract them more in rock pose. So the next time you are exhaling, firmly, slowly draw your belly towards your spine, right? We're doing that compression exhale, and then squeezing hands into fists. Arms into sides, shoulder heads down, squeeze the butt cheeks, the thighs, flex or point the feet. You can even scrunch up your face. Then I hope on the inhales, as you soften, you get to feel like a little cookie melting in the oven. Let's do this a number of rounds. On the inhales, if you feel inspired, you might sweep arms overhead and enjoy how the inhale fills you there. If you'd like, you can add a sit-up motion. Some people are already adding the lion stretch, sticking the tongue out. I love it. If the sit-up motion just creates a bunch of neck tension, leave it out. You could still create incredible muscular kind of, I think it was like almost a toxicity release. Certainly a habit release. As we do just a few more, see if you can lengthen the breath. Again, asking, is there more? Is there any last droplet of exhale that I can get out? If you can whisper, there's still breath in there. Of course, on those inhales, filling the bucket, asking, is there more? And often it's that last little wave that will come up into the clavicle and so on. And that can be marvelously renovating for your nervous system. Okay, when we get that full diaphragmatic breath, it's so healing. Let's do one more. The next time you release for an inhale, reaching arms overhead and begin just organically stretching, rolling through ankles and wrists and maybe yawning, fake or real. And then we'll clasp that right knee into the belly, release wind pose, shoulder heads anchoring, elbows in. I sometimes roll my head side to side just to make sure I'm not working the neck. Enjoying a long inhale, exhale. If you'd like, adding a little sit up on the exhale. You might even lift that left leg just a little off the floor as you push your heel towards the opposite wall. And on your next inhale, we'll extend that right leg. We're going to hold there. I'm going to put my hands behind my thigh right above the knee. For some of you, this is not an intense stretch. For some of us, it is. And those hands are just meant to support as we now bend the knee and straighten. So I'm playing with pressing through the heel. I'm still activating my left thigh, which is anchoring down into the floor. And this is my opportunity to really notice, is it difficult to straighten that right leg? If so, talk to your quadricep, that front thigh muscle right above the knee, and see if you can get it to push towards the wall at the bottom of your mat. And as you press to your heel, I'm hoping that combination will help. Lovely. And we're going to inhale, slow, deep, and wide. Exhale, root through the low back. And slowly descend that leg. It's like you're trying to paint a stripe on the wall in front of you. And melting, giving into gravity. Just feel that right side. Mine feels really different than the left. Let's bring the left knee in for release wind pose. Right thigh anchoring, right heel pressing to the wall in front of you. Big belly breath. And as you're ready, extending that left leg, hands supporting, and beginning to play. I'm hoping that some of you who are tight like me really get the evolution that I'm getting, which is when I first start, I really can't quite get that knee straight. And eventually it goes. Anybody else having that? Yay. And so this is, this would be a great warm up for, just the day, for walking, standing, to really make sure that you've got appropriate communication in those partnering muscle groups, hamstrings, and quadriceps. They're such a huge component of walking properly. And I'm gonna release for the inhale, release my arms, exhale through the core and slowly descend that leg. Again, melting like that cookie in the oven. Oh, you guys sound awesome. Let's plant the feet for bridge pose, an invitation to either place the block or imagine one between the thighs. Anchor the upper arms, shoulder blades just walking their way a little towards the spine. Just enough that our spine is not going to be pressed into the floor as we exhale and raise the hips, bridge. Asking of the breath, is there more? Inhale, descend one rib at a time. This is really valuable. Using these muscles to control our descent is a very different use of them and a really nice ignition of that back body strength. So we'll continue exhaling, rising, inhaling, descending. And as you're doing this, you can have your eyes closed or you can have them open as a way of, once again, training yourself in dual pointed focus, the ability to be eyes open of the world, but with our attention interior. Yeah. And if you're not using a block, pretending that you are and seeing how that changes and hopefully really ignites that interior thigh, groin, low glute area, right? We know those are our rooting muscles. They'll help us walk on the ice when it shows up. Or snowshoe in deep snow without it becoming all about our back, right? We want it to be about the core muscles designed for this. The next time up, we're going to do our foot hover. So you might want to remove the block. Make sure your feet are not too far apart because we don't want this to be overly hard. I want to be able to raise one foot just an inch off the floor without the hip dropping significantly. And if it drops a little, I talk to the standing butt and thigh. I try to stay soft in the neck, the tongue, the eyes, maybe even adding a soft smile. It's kind of funny how soft smile like short circuits stress responses. And eventually releasing and hugging knees to belly. Rolling a little side to side. You can let the head kind of move along too. And then let's take those knees wide for happy baby. So maybe you're clasping the big toes, maybe you're clasping the blades of the feet, the ankles. If anyone would like a strap delivered, give me a holler. We'd like to be able to anchor the shoulders down the back. So not having them kind of pulled forward up out of our body. Anchor the tailbone towards the floor. Looking good. And then as we send breath down in there, such fun massage. And from here, we're going to play, and I'm hoping you'll get to experience again some nice evolution in the tension in the legs. I'm going to bring my upper arm or elbows down to the floor, hands behind the knees essentially. And I'm going to first just bring my knees as wide as they'll go, right? So this is a nice supported position. I'm going to anchor the core so it's even more supported. And I'm going to start extending one leg at a time. I'm going to hang out there and see if I give it my attention, can I get it a little straighter? And then I'm going to switch. If you cannot straighten your legs in this position, I'm putting you on notice that you are way, way too tight. And it's gonna put you at risk for all kinds of stuff. Walking like an old person, more likely to fall, harder to get up and down off the floor. So this is me telling you we need to work on the ham and quad stuff more frequently. All right, let's bring those heels together in butterfly. And I like doing a little, what I call a windshield wiper, a seesaw, bringing one foot towards my head and then the other. And I just kind of roll along with it. It feels really good to me. If you're kind of tight in the back, it's like, oh yeah. Marvelous. We're going to come into our reclined pigeon. So planting the left foot across the right ankle, heel flexed. Give it a little wag. And kind of putting yourself on notice, like how tight are my hips today? And then hugging that right knee tightly as you raise the left leg. That left leg is just there to help the stretch happen. If it's like not easy, if it's hurting your back or something, you can replant that right foot, or that left foot, excuse me. But I find it helpful and I don't have to do quite as much arm work. Shoulder heads anchor, elbows wing in. Watch out for shrugs. And please tune into deep breath. It's always just an amazing thing to follow that breath. When you feel ready, we'll switch. Sometimes people need to like kick it out, right? Cross left ankle onto right thigh. And wag that left knee. And we really need this angle for the hips. They're designed to do it, we just don't do it very much during the day. Hugging that left knee, right leg flying. I was putting on my socks and thinking of you guys. I think of you all the time. And I was thinking how instead of just trying to hurry through the process, one could use that moment to get essentially a seated version of reclined pigeon, right, or pigeon. If you just cross that ankle onto the knee, but then fold your torso a little forward, you're going to get into some of the same hip stretch. Feels so good. Oh, is this side different? What are you coming across here, kids? Now we're going to release and we're going to come into one more expression of bridge, or if you want to be a little wider, kind of on the way to horse riding stance, whatever feels good. Just raising those hips and releasing a few times. I think of these movements where we come in and out, back and forth as like WD-40, you know, the joints, right? If you've got a rusty doorknob, you don't just try and crank on it one direction. All right. And then we're gonna walk the soles of the feet together in our little relaxed butterfly here. Chance to breathe and notice. I'm kind of working my shoulder blades down the body and in a little bit so that and the front is broad and relaxed, the spine is feeling protected. And then I'm gonna raise the hips just an inch or so. Say hello to those golfing muscles. I did read about this practice in a how to improve your golf game, which is not what I was trying to do because I've only ever played twice in my life. But I was interested in practices that specifically target rooting and core. And you're getting into it right now. Yeah, so when we're trying to lift heavy things or push things, we want to actually be galvanizing strength right in this center hub. So notice if it's hard for you to talk to those muscles. And we're gonna hold for another 30 seconds or so. If that's too much or you're experiencing, you know, any kind of cramp is coming on, come out, just come back in. But I find this to be a really interesting pose for me, again, as a chronic neck tightener shrugger, because this does not require anything from those areas of the body. And I can scan and go, oh yeah, they were trying to help. Just practice softening and releasing. And in your own time, come slowly down, extend the legs, maybe even take them wide. Beautiful. And we're gonna come into some abdominal pumping. If you need a sighing breath first, go for it. This is your practice. Then inhaling, exhaling, empty, hold out, and begin that pumping motion. We, before Thanksgiving, we talked about the value of like not overeating and all of that. Was anybody more successful this year, just kind of going in with awareness? Like trying to choose slowly? Yes, I see one hand. I'm excited. I was, so I'm the second hand. Oop, I see a third one. I feel like I'm at an auction. I see a fourth one, fifth. Okay, this is exciting. Sold to half of you. Fantastic. And we talked about how overeating is just a form of violence against the body. How we can counteract some of that by chewing more slowly, recognizing the value of leftovers. All right, my friends, well, we're gonna come up onto our hands and knees in cow-cat. We're gonna keep some of that front-back body communication going. I know a lot of people are still working hard to get a morning practice going. I'll tell you, if nothing else, you know, just on your carpet, do a little cow-cat would be a great way to start the day. Intelligent hands. Everything else we just did, you could do in your bed pretty much. Inhaling, cow pose. Drawing the heart forward. Exhaling, tucking the tailbone and then letting that curve go all the way up the spine until the head hangs. So I'm gonna ask you to do this cow-cat in a very, again, progressive, thoughtful way. Inhaling, tailbone draws back, heart draws forward, neck stays peaceful. We're not trying to look forward. Exhaling, tucking tailbone, and letting that move all the way up the spine. So one thing that's fun about that spinal articulation is it's a chance to notice where you might be feeling that you can't articulate, like it's just all one chunk that goes at the same time. Good. We're gonna come into downward facing dog. So if you feel inclined to distance hands from knees and give it a little extra space, go for it. Nice intelligent hand position or fists if that's where you're working. Fists can be tough in downward dog, and so alternatively, you could come down to forearms and you're in dolphin. It's challenging, it's good for your shoulders, but it can be hard work, especially if you're tight in the hamstrings. You might have to give yourself a little more distance between the elbows and the feet. And pedaling, yeah, many of you are already doing that. It's such a great instinct to press one heel towards the floor and then the other. And now if you would hold one heel towards the floor, we don't care if it's not touching, but hold it and breathe into it and let that stretch really grow. Yeah, and then the other one. Is this side different? And taking all the time you like walk those hands back to the feet. Take those feet wide, right up to the edges of the mat. And we're going to intentionally just kind of take the hips side to side, let the torso follow along. All right, we're going to be coming in and out of this fold. And what I'm interested in is both breath and using the core so that the back is feeling supported. If you're feeling challenged in your back already, in fact, let's do the first one this way, everyone. Take your hands on your thighs. And on your inhale, push the earth away and then rise up with the arms to the ceiling. Nice long inhale. Exhaling and fold. Keep exhaling, moving side to side or whatever feels good. Then inhaling, root and rise. Again, maybe you use the hands on the thighs and then pressing up. Maybe you like reaching through the chin, or maybe that creates neck tension. Exhaling and fold. I'm going to continue this for a few rounds. If you get dizzy or something, maybe pause upright and let yourself kind of resettle. Next time you're in that fold, invitation to try and straighten the legs. So during your exhale, kind of pulsing, trying to straighten knees. And of course, let the breath tell you when it's time to inhale up. Maybe in that inhale hold, you start pressing one hand and then the other towards the ceiling. Exhaling, fold. Do just a couple more. Really letting the head go with gravity.
The next time you are inhaling, we're gonna use it to just walk those hands forward. We're gonna be coming onto our belly. Those of you who would like a little plank to chaturanga, make sure to walk those feet in for a nice stable plank, maybe even come down to knees. I always do my first chaturanga this way because you just never know what's in your shoulders, right? We ask a lot of them, and this position can be challenging. Beautiful. We're gonna bring the arms straight forward, resting on our forehead. On your inhale, I want you to lengthen your right hand and left leg, or right arm, left leg. You're not lifting, you're just lengthening and reaching. And then exhaling, soften. Inhaling, reach left arm and right leg. And one of the things that I get to notice when I'm doing this is that I actually feel like it's easier to communicate with some of my limbs than others. And you might similarly be more dominant on one side, just inviting you to notice that. As we continue, if you feel inspired, let that lengthening motion turn into a lift. And if you'd like, you can, lift your head and that reaching shoulder a little bit. But again, we're not looking forward. I'm reaching through the crown. As we exhale, we want to keep getting longer as we go down. Again, I ask you to notice if you feel different, much weaker or stronger. Notice if maybe on one side you're kind of almost rotating or twisting. Do that. I want you to feel like maybe you have a little teacup on your upper back, that it stays flat and stable. A beautiful job, and I thank you for that, because it's so easy to want to make grand gestures. But it's in the small and the subtle that we're able to notice. We began with right arm. I invite you to complete with left arm, right leg. And then we're going to bring the arms back behind us for our jet airplane. So palms are facing the floor. You're going to rotate so the palms are facing the floor. Shoulder heads rotate down the back and away from the floor. So you might actually need to circle the shoulder heads. You've got it. And the hands are not intended to be right by the hips. If you put them really close to the hips, it's going to create a really awkward shoulder alignment. So don't do that. And as you're ready, begin extending. And if you want to reach the hands off the floor for the wall behind, go for it. Exhaling, returning. Extending and returning. Yeah, I'm hoping you can specifically feel work right through this upper back. Nice, yeah, creating like a shoulder blade sandwich. So valuable. Looking good, folks. And now invitation to bring one arm forward, one arm back. You might sweep it out to the outside. That can be a really nice movement, as long as you're not going to hit anything or it doesn't hurt. And so as you find that position, pause and kind of think longer. Keep reaching middle finger to middle finger. See if you can find extra space. So we're not just kind of, okay, one arm forward, one arm back, but it's a deep extension that kind of grows and grows and grows, and hopefully gets both arms into actual extension. Again, that elbow has the same problem that we have at the knee, which is a lot of us have too much tension on one side and too much weakness on the other, and that joint doesn't ever 100% straighten. Okay, good. When you feel complete, you might rest on your belly. You could always go to child's pose. Yeah, isn't it fun when you ask your body what it would like and it gives you a clear answer?
mean, celebrate that. That is a great sign of your relationship and communication lines being open. I like it. And wherever you are, noticing breath coming into the belly and then into the back. Okay, we're going to return to our belly. We're going to be doing another shoulder strengthening and back strengthening. And this one is very similar to what you just did, except now the arms are straight out. And again, we want to make sure that the shoulder heads have circled down and back. Well, down the back body, up off the floor. We don't want them forward on the body at all. So there's a nice broadness through the front. And what we're trying to do is shorten those muscles across the upper back. So again, you want your arms straight out, 90 degrees from the body. You got it. Beautiful. And what I notice, actually, if I keep my head on the floor and I just hang out with my arms extended, I can start to feel that heat, a little bit of intensity across that upper back. Yeah, see how far up the hands can come off the floor and have it feel just like good work, right? We just want to do good work. No bad work, just good work. Would it feel good to maybe just relax completely a moment, and then on your next inhale, take flight, including the chest and head, maybe including the legs. I often keep legs anchored because my low back will complain otherwise, so see what works for you. So here we're breathing inside of some intensity, some strength, relaxing into it, I hope. Yeah. Are you giving me that look because you're hearing the phone?
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody's phone's ringing.
I think it's mine, but.
Oh, is it? Okay. No, you're not imagining it. And in your own time, release and just take a moment to enjoy the effects. A little heart rate, a little heat. Oh yeah, thank you. Someone's reminding me of something I actually wanted to do today and I forgot. Perfect timing. So if you would, rotate your face to the right and bring your right knee out. It's like a half frog, or like I say, like dead person on the sidewalk shape. You know, in the movies when someone's jumped off a building. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Yeah. And then as you're there, go ahead and tighten your right butt cheek down towards the floor, and your choice to kind of tighten and release, or tighten and hold and breathe. You're giving yourself a little massage here. And of course, we're really curious to see how the other side is different. Whenever you're ready, you'll switch. I always have to be really careful in releasing that leg, mostly because we're on the hard floor and we've got all these delicate attachments on the inside of the knee. Yeah, what's the other side like? Squeezing that left butt cheek down and releasing, squeezing and releasing. You know, the hips are such an intense central hub for us, both physically and again emotionally. When we feel strong and fluid here and connected, it really helps support us moving through life in a way that's confident, peaceful, productive, but not striving. We're going to come into some quadricep stretch, and I know for some of you standing is the best version, so you'll want to come on up and, you know, if need be, find a wall or something to use for balance. Otherwise, if you're on your belly, it can be really nice to come in this very peaceful way of bringing one forearm across the front, because then I can basically raise my chest to reach that ankle. It's less flailing. Excuse me. And then you can set your forehead back down on that forearm if you'd like. Remember to please let your shoulder blade be drawn towards the spine. So there's a tendency to rotate the shoulder head forward, and instead I want you to let it be drawn back towards the spine. Feel free to flare your yoga toes. Always squeezing the glutes, so whether you're standing or on your belly. You can also do this on your side body, as you know. And notice that just even subtle angles make a difference here. If you're letting your knee wing out a little bit, or if you bring it in a little bit, you're gonna find that just perfect angle. Generally, we want the knee straight from the hip, not winged out and not all the way in center. When you come out, sometimes it might feel good to like kind of, again, bend and straighten the leg just to release some of that, you know, it's almost like galvanizing the communication between, again, front and back partnering muscle groups. And then we'll move into the other side. I tend to hold this pose for at least 6 or 7 breaths because I feel evolution happening, usually right towards the very end. You know, it starts off in one part of the leg and then I can feel it stretch and grow and deepen. And reminder, if you're standing, try and stand upright and try to let that knee come in towards the standing leg. Yeah, it's a good balancing practice, making that standing leg work a lot. Love it. Nice. Those of you who are on your belly, if you feel like it, you could turn this into bow pose and go ahead and get hold of both ankles and then press those ankles back into the hands. Towards me. Nice. And remember, again, we want to let those shoulder heads be drawn towards the spine. We want to let the neck be easy. Whew, and when you're complete, release the invitation to either hold on belly or press back child's pose. I love choices. My favorite meal is one that comes with like 3 different condiments. Yeah, just notice again, belly breath. Maybe remember once again that heart space that you placed your hands on as well. It's kind of fun to get skilled, which I think we are doing, at bringing breath to the various parts of the body. For me, if I'm in kind of a hurry or I'm really focused on getting something done, I'll notice that I really haven't been breathing very deeply. And in the beginning, you know, yoga practice for me, you know, I needed hands kind of on location, and now I can blossom a big breath into my whole rib cage, and it feels just amazing. It's like drinking water when you're thirsty. It's like such a relief. It's so satisfying. All right, we're gonna come into forearm plank and hope to bring deep-ish breath to it. You know, anytime you're muscularly engaged, that's gonna make it harder to just let that full breath balloon relax and receive, which is again why we get to practice being skilled. So whether you're on your knees or your feet, forearm plank, shoulder heads softly sliding down the back, looking good. Wow. Yeah. Awesome. Keep engaging those thighs towards the ceiling. Just make sure you really feel they're there for you. Yes, if I ever make adjustments in your pose and you don't like it, go back to what you were doing. Look, it's good. Good. You're right here. Woo. And you get to decide, what's your edge? What's your edge today?
And when you're ready to come out, because we don't stay past the edge, right? Whew. All right, and if you'd like, you could just roll over like a little log if your block is within reach. We're gonna come into support with the block under the sacral triangle. That's that bony triangle right at the top of the crack of the butt. If anyone would like one of these soft blocks instead, let me know, I'll deliver. So 2 distinct positions, knees bent and knees straight. I start with the knees bent and I hang out there for a few breaths. I feel like I get a much needed tractioning in the low back from that. And then if you decide to straighten the legs, again, nice, slow, curious, because I want to notice if when I straighten my legs, if there's a pelvic kind of dump forward or down, that means I need the block a little bit lower. I want to have it just holding my hips perfectly centered so that the body just drapes over. I can work my shoulder blades in underneath and hopefully feel like this is a relaxing, supported stretch. Letting the belly breath happen. We're going to be focusing in a moment in a breath practice we've not done in a long, long time. But for those of you who kind of remember it, 3-part breathing, Dirga Pranayama. You can think about that, that as you're inhaling, you want to notice it move into that low belly and then rise up like a wave into the diaphragmatic area and then up into the clavicle area. And this way of breathing, again, renovates the nervous system, helps the whole body remember how. Because if we've been in prolonged stress or shallow breath, it may need to remember how. That's how babies breathe. It's maybe one of the gifts of being around them, right? Get to watch their little tummies gently go up and down. Their whole chest moves, but not shrugging shoulders, trying to get deep breath because they're stressed out. No, no, no. They're tapped in. They know what's going on. Staying here only as long as it's feeling just right. When you feel complete, come off by bending the knees, raising the hips, removing the block. Again, giving yourself a counter shape, usually knees to belly. We're going to go from here into spinal twist. And what I find in general is that embryo pose, knees bent, is the best version for me and most people because you can stabilize your low back. So I'm going to lay on my right side. You can, support your head with your right arm or tuck something underneath if you'd like. Legs are together or with something in between anchoring them. The feet are flexed and you want your knees straight forward of your hip joints. So if they're lower, I recommend you bring them up higher. And then if you don't need that right arm underneath you, you could use the right hand on the tops of the thighs to kind of anchor. We're going to explore for a few rounds, just inhaling and opening the top arm. And exhaling, kind of returning to your embryo. You don't have to go all the way back, but we're going into our extension and our stretch. And then softening. At some point, opening into your twist, play with reaching the arm up towards the wall behind your head. And then back behind. Again, I ask you to notice, is your elbow straight? And if not, can you get it straight? And please find a position of best stretch. For me, it's usually somewhere between straight back and kind of 45 degrees up. And I want us to breathe deeply here. We're going to make, that's not maybe the best language, we're going to invite the breath past the resistance of the stretch. So as you're inhaling in this twist, it's going to meet up with a lot of resistance. So you've got to breathe past the resistance. It probably will lift your back, shoulder, and arm a little bit because the body's demanding the freedom to get more breath.
And then as you exhale, you can let that balloon empty and you'll rotate more deeply. Couple more. And then slowly returning to your embryo pose. Deep breath, maybe a sighing breath. Notice what would feel good. In your own time, finding your stretch on the other side, spinal twist on the left. And see if you can get your knees stacked so that one is not sliding back. Why? Because then this way the low back is completely stable. And all of the intense twisting that I'm inviting when I now open is going to be coming through from an elongated and supported spine. And that is what we want. As you go through your opening and returning on this side, noticing, is this side different? Can you get deep breath? When I say this side being different, it might be everything from the shoulder experience itself to the stretch that might be happening in the chest, in the ribs. And at some point holding back, you might then sweep the arm, reaching up above your head towards the wall behind you. Exploring that journey. Spinal twist is actually one of the most important things we could do for daily practice. And again, you know, this would be an amazing way to start your day, just in bed if you've got the room without, you know, clobbering anybody. It's just amazing what it does for circulation of blood to our organs, to all the nerves that innervate along the spine, right? You gotta remember the spine is this incredible communication channel where everything plugs in. So our nervous system, our digestion, all of that affected deeply by how fluid and balanced out the spine and those nerves are. Again, find your place of best stretch and a few really deep breaths. Draw the inhale past the resistance. And then eventually returning to your embryo pose. And then please notice what you would like. You know, do you crave any other particular stretch or movement, any counter position to that? Otherwise, ultimately, this is a great time to add back layers, gather anything that you need for your resting time. And the 3-part breathing you can do even if you're like propped up on a bolster, etc. So you can go ahead and do that now. We are going to start off our 3-part breathing just one stage at a time and using our touch. And so the first stage, the hands are at the low belly right above the pubic bone, essentially. The second stage, they slide up to the diaphragm right up under the breast area. So it's not kind of mid-belly, it's right up high. And then we're going to actually get that diaphragmatic breath also by bringing the hands out to the outside. So it's actually 2 hand positions for that second stage of breath. And then the third is the clavicle breath with the fingers up at the base of the throat. If you know anybody who struggles with kind of just chronic depression, anxiety, etc., there's a very good chance that they are chest breathers and that this is how they breathe, with kind of shoulders lifting and clavicle lifting. And unfortunately, that means the diaphragm is not moving and it is just reinforcing fight or flight, actually, this way of breathing up here. So we want to really wake up this diaphragm and get it involved. And of course, to notice what our own habits are. So hands are at that stage 1 low belly. And over the next few breaths, I just want you to think about emptying completely through that area. So engaging those low muscles like we do in robot. emptying. And then on the inhale, really trying to project those muscles into your hands, filling there. Imagine you've got just like a little loaf of bread or a little pouch that you're filling. Some of us may feel like we have a little pouch after Thanksgiving. So notice how easy or difficult it is for you to communicate with those muscles there. We're gonna move to the diaphragmatic breath. Again, hands just right, slide them straight up to tight up underneath the breast area. And similarly, you're gonna focus on exhaling, squeezing and compressing breath out of that area under your touch. And then inhale, expanding under your touch. Now you'll feel both compression and expansion in other parts of the body, right? But we're just trying to focus most where our hands are. Staying soft and relaxed in the eyes, the tongue, the lips. Let's move the hands to the outside of the ribs so that we're continuing to try and wake up the diaphragm. And what I'm hoping is on your exhale, you can kind of use your hands to squeeze the ribs in, like you're kind of creating a little girdle. And then on the inhale, that you can communicate with those intercostals, which will flare the ribs out into your hands. So it's like you're resisting with the hands and the breath is pushing back. When you feel like you've got that area good and awake, we'll then take the hands up to the clavicle area, which in some ways I feel like is the most difficult because it's the least dramatic. And that when we try to get breath in that area, again, we tend to kind of shrug, etc. What I'd like you to do is, in a sense, you've got your hands here to notice if you're getting breath there, but I kind of want you to forget about this area. And so now, as you're breathing, think about trying to fill a bucket. Your torso is the bucket. And I know you're sideways, but you'll get what I mean. You're filling the breath down into the lower bucket, and then it's rising into the mid bucket until it kind of overflows. So just keep pushing into the bucket, until you hopefully get a little lift under your hands. For some of you, this is going to be easy. It's maybe how you already breathe. For some of us, it's a big challenge. And I want you to notice that. If this is a challenge area for you, practicing here would be profound. It's a big game changer. And again, something you can share with people in your life who struggle with that anxiety or depression. When you're ready to string it together, we're going to do all three in one inhale. If that just feels like too much today, go back to the area that you feel needs the most focus and just practice there. You're creating a line of communication. If you want to use your hands for the 3-part breath, go for it. Otherwise, you can just relax. Inhale, slow, deep and wide. Exhale, empty, completely, compression, empty. On the inhale, invite it to move into the low belly, the mid, up into the clavicle eventually as that bucket overflows, and exhale again. And it'll go pretty quickly. And you let the exhale just happen in its own time, in its own direction. You're not trying to make it happen in any order. But again, at the very end, compress out more, which will help you for that next expansive inhale. You're finding this to be useful and interesting. If you'd like to continue with it, you may. Otherwise, at any time, you're welcome to let it go and let yourself settle into the soft and passive breath of a baby sleeping. And hopefully, because of this work that we just did, the breath is still making that deep journey, utilizing the diaphragm. You should notice the belly rising and settling. You tune in to this amazing body that you're in. Feel inspired, sending a message of gratitude, acknowledging its wholeness, its intricacy, its incredible wisdom. With each exhale, sinking a little more deeply down, down, down. Slowly deepen your breath. Become aware of your body. You might feel inclined to move, stretch. Perhaps you want to rub your hands together for a little healing heat and energy. And once again, place hands on chest and belly. Maybe there's some areas that are big for self-massage, temples, base of the skull. So grateful to be at the mat with you today, and always grateful for your openness, combination of deep attention to the practice while also being relaxed in it, not striving. You guys all look so strong. It's really awesome. Wishing you a wonderful rest of your week. We'll be here Thursday night. Maybe I'll see you then or next week. I look forward to it. Namaste. It's been a great December, eh?
Third practice, the week of persons.